Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of America in Black and White. Tonight, we're going to be discussing entrepreneurship, writing books as an author, and doing speaking engagements. We have a very special guest tonight, and that guest is Mr. Daniel Francis. Let me tell you guys a little bit about Mr. Francis. Through Rebit Limited, he coaches individuals to unlock their potential. Daniel also manages One Momentum Publishing, One Momentum Marketing, and Valor Logistics with his respective partners. He's authored impactful books like The Millennial Mind and The Millennial Experience, with a new book on self publishing for Caribbean authors on the horizon. As a columnist for the Catholic News, he explores faith and contemporary issues, known for his compelling speeches. Daniel's dedication to making a meaningful impact shines through in all his endeavors. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome to the show Mr. Daniel Francis.
Hi, good day, good day. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yes, sir. Did I get everything right, or is there more that you'd like to add to the bio that I just read?
No, I think you more or less covered everything there, so no complaints here.
Yes, sir. So let's get right into this because I'm really happy to have you on the show, and I know that you're a very busy man. Um, I want to talk a little bit about the entrepreneurship first. Can you tell us, as an entrepreneur, what led you to pursue your own business, and what challenges did you face along the way?
I feel like I grew up with that narrative. You know, my parents had me read like Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was young, so I always had it in my mind that I didn't really want to work for persons. Of course, whilst working for people, you kind of experience it and get a sense for it. It didn't really feel like it was for me. Um, and I actually even wanted to be a doctor. I went did pre med, followed that path, got to a point where it was time to commit to actually starting medicine, and just really couldn't commit. And it was through that period of lost and trying to find myself that I would have been introduced to personal development, leadership development, which then started me on the path to becoming a leadership development coach. And for me, I think that was more or less the starting point to everything else. Everything else just more or less evolved into the next thing. So from coaching young people to then writing a book for young people, doing events for young people, doing the books and people asking questions about the book, then turning that into a publishing company for persons. So there was always this kind of natural, I would say, evolution and type of connectiveness with everything that I do.
Oh, wow. So then, is it safe to say that this is something that you saw as a kid growing up that inspired you to want to do your own thing?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, both my parents own their own company together. That actually got me into leadership development because they do that type of training, and then they want to train me, mentor me. And growing up, I guess they would have definitely been that beacon to show me that anything is really possible, and that possibility that I saw would have been entrepreneurship.
Okay. So, can you tell us how was your entrepreneur journey intersected with your passion for writing and speaking?
Right. Now, initially, I didn't really have a passion for writing, I would say. It more started with a passion for gaining knowledge so that could become a better coach because I felt like I didn't know enough. So I would have been trying at that point in time to read maybe like one book a week or one book every 2 weeks. And it was through reading the books. It was mainly self-help books at the time. I felt like it was adding so much value to myself. And I just remember one day I was thinking to myself, how could I add value to someone or help someone without physically being in front of them? And I don't know, maybe if it was God, but I got the idea like, hey, just write a book. Of course, I wasn't like I had any prior knowledge or hopes or dreams of becoming an author. It just made sense. Um, and I think what emboldened the thought was the fact that I had read so many self-help books in that particular year that I had enough context to say, I think I can definitely do this. Um, And then, well, as a coach, you just end up getting asked to do speeches and come to schools and talk to young kids and individuals, or come here and give a speech on this. And at first, it was very uncomfortable because it really wasn't why I got into the field to begin with. But as you do it and you start to draw from your own experiences and context and your own, information and knowledge bank, you realize that it's all the same. You're just impacting people in different ways, whether through your words, through the written word, or through that one-on-one interaction, through guided through a course or something like that.
Okay. Well, so how has with the speaking engagements? I mean, have you found them to be much more frequent now, or are you just are these like just at particular times that people need some motivation and some inspiration that you come in and you do some speaking?
I think what really kind of got it really going would have been when my first book came out, to the Millennial Mind. Um, I think that was my first real access point to see how much value a book can add, not only to yourself, but to your business. Because the book did really well, a lot of persons would purchase it. And as a result, I found that whenever a company thought of, okay, I have, let's say, an event and it's targeted towards millennials, or I'm doing a panel discussion and it's focused on millennials or whatsoever you have it, because the book was the Millennial Mind and they could tell that, oh, he's doing leadership for millennials, it just made sense to, okay, let's get this guy in to come have this conversation. So I would have remembered specifically after the book came out, that those 4 or 5 months afterwards, it was just nonstop panel discussions, interviews, speeches, and of course, you build a solid relationship with these companies, so they would ask you back for different occasions. Again, it really wasn't my main focus, but it was just interesting to see how it would have flourished because of the circumstance I was in.
Oh, that's cool. So, so I guess as you have grown into the industry itself, um, so are you like going more into the entertainment side, where you're going to be like doing more books, like maybe some like some drama or whatever have you, or maybe writing some scripts for movies or anything like that?
I think I'm more or less going to stay in the self-help arena. I think I've heard my friends say that when they got their first tattoo, they just got more and more ideas for more tattoos. And I think that's the position I'm in with books. I would have written my first two in the Millennial Mind series, and I just got so many different ideas. I probably have like 6 or 7 of those books in a series. And well, with my new book, How to Write and Self-Publish as an aspiring Caribbean author, I have a whole series in mind of books for that. So I think for me, it's mainly going to be in books. I see myself producing about 20 books maybe in the next 5 to 8 years. Um,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, I'm ready to pump them out. And well, I mean, I still do my article writing for one of the newspapers locally here. And whatever opportunities that come that I think that I can add in, because you you don't really realize how you develop when you're doing the work. So in doing the work of writing books and putting them out there, I'm sure that the level that I will be at will just develop over time, that will allow me to do other things and maybe open the doors for other things as well. So I keep my mind open to those things.
When you did your first book and it was published and you actually saw it and you held it in your hand,
Mhm.
how did that make you feel?
It didn't feel like a real moment. It just felt like a dream because we put in so much effort and time to make it a reality. And then when you get that first set of prints and you open that box and you have that first copy, it's like nothing you've ever experienced before. It's just so, I don't even have words for it. I think it's only parallel to getting that first sale. It just leaves you in a moment of, okay, we did this, we're here, and it just is, it's pretty amazing.
Wow, that's just accomplishment. Lots of accomplishment. Can you share any insights or lessons learned from your experience as a business owner that have influenced your work as an author and speaker?
Yeah. I would say I take a very entrepreneurial approach when it comes to being an author, and I think that's why I have been able to move forward in this unconventional way. I think most authors, they focus a lot on the writing, and they tend to be creatives. So you know how creative minds work. They focus on the actual creating portion of things, but the after, what comes after, tends to be missed. Because I'm more business minded, I went into it with an entrepreneurial mindset, even with the books I do. So I don't look at the books as only books. I look at them as my business card. I look at them as like introduction into my sales funnel. I look at them as a form of increasing my credibility, making me a niche thought leader in whatever specific area, whether it be leadership development, whether it be publishing. Um, and what does it help me to focus on, especially, would be the marketing and the sales side. I remember specifically when I did my first book, there was there's a like a measurement of it that they said that typically first-time authors will sell about 200 to 300 copies of their first book in the first year. Not only that, they tend to never cross 1,000 books being sold in the lifetime of their books. I saw that and I thought, I need to put more energy and thought into marketing and sales. And I think that kind of makes me a bit different in my approach. I remember even with the first book, I said, 1,000 books in the first year, was able to hit that in the first 6 months, thankfully. And I think that's a direct result of like my business mindedness, and it's even interesting to see how the other businesses play a part in helping me with the with authoring books and publishing, because I could tell myself, hey, I've thrown events here, parties even, and I've sold 100 tickets for something that costs $400 TT, 500 TT dollars. I can definitely sell 1,000 copies of a book that costs 150 TT dollars. It gave me that comparison to say, okay, there's faith, there's a direction, I can definitely do this. And then you're accustomed to doing sales, having conversations, asking tough questions. And I think that definitely directly correlated into my ability to really push my book in a specific direction.
So, what do you use for your secret sauce for marketing?
Secret sauce. My secret sauce is, well, two things. I would say having a solid foundation. I saw the value in creating a personal brand early. So I would have worked really hard on creating one on Instagram, Facebook, especially LinkedIn, as we would have met on there. I see the value in putting out content that's valuable to individuals, shows the work that you're doing, so then you can kind of use that as a springboard for putting out your stuff, so your books. And then I don't do this alone. I always have a team. Before I start any campaign for any book, I always build a team. So even for this new book, I have a whole marketing team. They focus on creating strategies, executing the content, posting the content, following the analytics, and then even things like getting press, so that when the book launches, there's enough buzz and excitement around it that people want to get it.
Oh, wow. So, what inspired you to delve into the world of writing and become an author?
Yeah, I mean, it would have been that initial idea of how I could reach more people without physically being in front of them. So that would have been the first two books, basically focus on personal development, leadership development, specific to millennials. And it was actually through that process that I had authors reaching out to me, asking me for help. They wanted to know, well, how do I write my book? How do I edit my book? Where do I get a book cover? What's information that I need to know that will help me get this done properly? And it was through all those questions, I realized that there was a gap in information, a gap in access to information. And that would have encouraged me to write my third self-help book, which is launching next week, Tuesday, at the author conference, how to write and self-publish a book as an aspiring Caribbean author.
Oh, wow. So I take it then, for those that don't know, can you tell us what part of the world are you located?
Right. So I am located in the Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago, Twin Island. Amazing place, best carnival in the world, creator of steel pan and all these good things.
Wow. So, but also, so are there some new events or things of that nature that you have coming up that's particularly catered to the area in which you're located?
When you say events, like outside of the conference,
Yes.
well, the events that I used to do, basically, it was with an event company, so we would throw party, but we have recently pivoted and have my event logistics company with my partner. So basically, we help facilitate events for individuals. So we're going to be doing a TEDx event in May, facilitating that for someone. We're doing a women empowerment event in September. We're doing an Caribbean diaspora event next year in January, and then we have little events in between there. So we get very busy when it comes to these different events because we like the different aspects, doing events, doing conferences, it kind of brings variety to your day.
So tell us about the conference that you got coming up. What's the inspiration behind that?
Right? So for me, the conference, what I really wanted it to do is solve the main problems that I had when I published my first book. Those main problems were one, did not really have an I didn't have access to an author community. Those who would have done books to ask them questions, ask for mentorship, ask for guidance. Two would have been access to information. When I decided I wanted to do the book, I read books, I did courses, I you know, did whatever I could to get as much information as I could. But then there was information that was really specific to where I am that could have helped me a lot better that I just couldn't find. And then three, even when the book was out, having access to places where I could promote and sell my books. So with those three problems in mind, I would have created the idea of the Caribbean Author Conference. Um, so in that, so it's going to be actually on World Book Day. That's Tuesday, the 25th of April. I thought it would be a really amazing day to do something like this. Even though now I think about it, that Tuesday probably makes it hard for attendance. But I think we try to do different things and we see how it goes. And so it's from 4 to 10, and that 4 to 7 period, what I've done is made it free to the public, and we have authors. We have provided them a free space to set up and sell their books, you know, solving that issue of having a space to promote and sell their books, right? So that's number one. From 7 to 8:30, we'll be doing the actual conference portion where I will go through all the general information that, let's say, an aspiring author would need to put their book out there. So I'll be talking about editing, writing, formatting a book, getting a book cover done, publishing onto Amazon, all these different things that you would really need to get the ball started. So as an aspiring author, you would have everything you need in one place. We'll even have author panels, resource panels, so that all the different aspects and facets of the process you have an access point to. So basically, that solved the problem of not having the information, especially not having it all in one place. And then that third issue of an author community, we have mixing and mingling after. But on top of that, we've created a group, the Caribbean Author Village, that persons can join, whether an aspiring author or a published author. And the purpose of the group is that persons can ask questions, get their questions answered. They can share things there that they need feedback on. And I must say, we're only at 200 persons in the group already. And it's like its own little ecosystem. It's not a situation where I need to be there to answer all the questions. There are seasoned authors in there. So when somebody comes in and they're asking questions, we're all kind of working together to help each other. And that's something that I really, really, really wish I had back then. So I think the conference really satisfies those three gaps that I saw back when I would have published my first book.
Oh, wow. So I'm sure that the authors that are going to be participating really, really appreciate the opportunity that you're giving them to actually give them the chance to get out and let
Mhm.
people see their work and give them the opportunity to sell some books.
Yeah, I believe so. They always message me to say how grateful they are. I think this is just the beginning. I mean, it's a lot of work that I put on myself, but I think it's a new mission for myself to really connect the Caribbean in this way with literature. I think that it's something that's needed. And I feel dedicated that this is something that I will be working on for the years to come.
Well, I'll tell you, that is something that I really, really like that because I think that's like, for me, that reminds me of just community.
Mhm.
Because I think once you connect the community like that, especially when it comes to being an author, I call it creative anyway, but it just allows for everybody to actually come in and not only will they be able to just if they're doing different genres and so forth, but it's also a way to connect and to form like an alliance or a coalition of like many different areas, and probably there's no telling how many authors you may get into like a group and so forth that could actually grow and do a whole lot of things.
Yeah, definitely. And I see it now. The, the information that they're sharing in there, I'm learning things that I didn't even know about, and I think that's amazing. And like when I said it's meant to be its own ecosystem, it's really that. I haven't only added aspiring authors and published authors in there. I've added persons who have self-publishing companies and traditional publishing companies as well, who are supposed to be my competition. All to say that this group is not really meant to be, you know, Daniel's way of making business. It's really supposed to be what I say it is, an ecosystem. Um, because I believe that when it comes to tearing down these boundaries between our territories, it's going to take some level of collaboration. So I want to meet all these different publishers because let's say when I want to do this conference in another territory like Jamaica or Barbados or Guyana, I have the access point through these different publishing companies, and they know me. They know what I'm ready to do, and they trust me to do it well. So it's just really taking this idea of competition that we always seem to have, and really just dismantling it and showing that when we all kind of come together, there ends up being more for everyone as opposed to us fighting for something more.
So, could you tell us about your most recent book and the message you aimed to convey through it?
Actually, again, the newest book is called How to Write and Self-Publish as an Aspiring Caribbean Author. The goal of the book was really to just have everything that you would need more or less in a general sense. Because you are an aspiring author and you're thinking, okay, I've written my book, now what? Or I'm thinking about writing a book, what should I know? So these chapters are really broken down into writing, editing, um, putting things on like Amazon, distribution of your book, book marketing, book sales, even as basic as book components. Because it can be that one tiny piece of information that makes a difference. I had an author here, this was maybe a couple of months into my own book being out, and he would have said, he published his book in Trinidad, but he was saving up his funds to publish it onto Amazon. And I said, saving up your funds when you publish on Amazon is free. Now, he didn't know that. So he was literally trying to save funds for something that he didn't have to. And that is because of a lack of information. So the book is really meant to put all that information there so that someone can read it and they can then decide, okay, if I want to self-publish, let me follow these steps. Or maybe I just want to hire Daniel and have Daniel publish it for me with this publishing company. It just depends. I think at the end of the day, it's the access to the information that's important. So the book is really meant to give you that guide, give you that practical use, and just encourage that aspect of producing more and more authors out there.
Okay. How does writing allow you to address racial issues in a way that complements your work as a speaker?
Racial issues. I mean, tough question. I mean, I think when it comes to race and me and speaking, I think I just really just try to be that voice so that someone can see basically, like I know that because of my parents, I can see what the potential could be for myself. I know that not everyone has that. And I think, as individuals, if we strive for excellence, it's now showing that, hey, someone who looks like you is doing big things and that might not encourage you to do more. You know, because even when I did my first book, I had never met an author in my life. Like I had never ever met an author in my life, and that's why it would be as simple as thinking that why would I want to be an author? I don't know the ways. I never met one. I don't know anything about that. But if you are constantly seeing authors who look like you, not just doctors and engineers, and you're seeing authors and speakers who look like you, it might not open up a gate to be like, hey, I can be more than just this or just that or just this. It's kind of giving you an access point to be a bit more. So that's kind of how I look at it, more being as a beacon, as opposed to directly fighting any aspect of like racial disparity.
Oh wow. Well, I thank you. That's very profound, and I'm sure that that's very uplifting to those that are actually following you and listening to and following in the steps in which you are setting a nice trend for them to follow.
I hope so.
As a speaker, what topics or themes do you tend to focus on, and why are they important to you?
I would just say more or less the things that helped me to break through. I think it's important to highlight it because sometimes we think that life is providing this big, I guess, you know, pivotal moment that changes everything. But when I look back at my life and even at life of successful people, it's always the little things that I love over time that make the biggest difference. And I really try to show that in like how I speak to persons, how I dress, especially young people, to show that it's not always exciting to do the things that you need to do to be successful. It's the little things that you do every day over time that add to the bucket that then eventually makes it overflow. It's not like it doesn't sound exciting, but it makes all the difference. No, when you tell them that, hey, I read 60 books in a year, and this is how it directly added value to my life versus me reading 10 books a year and how little value I got that particular year. There's a correlation, and you have to show it to them. It's showing them how, yeah, I wake up every morning and do a morning routine for 30 to 45 minutes, and it directly, you know, prepares me mentally, physically, emotionally for my day ahead. And you won't see the value unless you try it. Because when you start your day on your phone, complaining, you don't want to go to work, you can't see the effect it has on you, but it does have a great effect. And it's really to speak to those things so that persons can now start highlighting it, focusing on it, and giving it more attention so that they can then start adding value to themselves and just, creating a better life for themselves. It sounds easy when you say it, but it is hard. But, I think what we tend to do is try to go too big, burn ourselves out, and then just revert to our usual, as opposed to the more tried and tested route of just making very small changes over time so that they eventually become just a passive habit that you normally do. So that's what I really try to do when I have my speaking engagements.
That's inspiring. Can you share any memorable moments or interactions you've had as a speaker that have had a significant impact on your audience?
Audience, pull from which one? I would say, probably one of the most memorable speeches that I had, just for me, that I think sentimental value would have been when my school asked me to come back to speak to the boys. And it was interesting to me and impactful to me because you talk to them about what we would have done when we were kids and how delinquent we were and how, we thought X and we thought Y. And then when we entered into the real world, this is what we got. And you're speaking to them and they're doing the same things and having the same expectations. So they're very locked in because now they're thinking, oh, do I not have it all figured out? Because, young people tend to think that they have it all figured out. And then guiding them into, hey, this is what we would have done. And this is the impact it would have made. And this is the changes it would have made within us. And it's not just me. It's this individual and that individual. And I think it was just meaningful to me because I saw that some of the boys, they're really locked in. And I could see the introspection happening on, okay, I think I need to get serious in some of these ways. Um, that for me is everything because it means that there's a chance that when they leave school, they're not better prepared for what's to come. And you never know what they can go on to do.
So, as you were speaking, and for this memorable moment that you're just focusing on at this point, can you tell me was there anything about that moment that inspired you to go out and do some things in your community to help build it and make it a whole lot more closer?
I think for me, I think from that point, once a school asks me to do anything, I just like my go-to now is just to immediately say yes and just try to make it work. I don't ever charge them for anything. It's just yeah, let's go in, let's do this. And I especially have a soft spot for organizations that are doing work for schools. So I think the two or three that I'm in right now, they're just focused on helping schools, especially the schools that aren't getting the help that other schools might be getting. Um, 'Cause I think it's important because I would have had mentors, I would have had help, I would have had individuals around me growing up who helped me to be the individual I am. Not everyone has access to that. Not everyone has an environment like that. So I think we kind of owe it to those in our community to at least try to create some type of environment where they have some of that access that you had, because that would have helped you get where you are. So why not help them get where they can be?
How do you approach engaging with diverse audiences during your speaking engagements?
Mm. Well, I mean, I think we're all people. I think at our core, we all have the same issues or the same things that we worry about, even though if those core issues are expressed in different behaviors, right? I think because I pulled from my book with that one, because even as millennials or even anyone younger or older, if you are impatient at your core, even if it is expressed in a different behavior, you're still impatient at your core. If you are bad at managing money at your core, it will show in different behaviors, but it's at your core, it's still you need to better yourself at managing your money. So what I try to do is to focus on those core issues, draw a parallel to them so that I can pull the person in. And then I use that as a guide to now take them on a journey on what they need to do or they can do to get to a better place. Right? Because I think that's one main thing is a lot of people think that they are experiencing something in a vacuum, that no one else is experiencing what they're experiencing. And they'll be very shocked to find out that a lot of people are probably experiencing the exact same thing they're experiencing. And because we have this whole thing about shame and not looking bad, we can't see that what we are going through, our neighbor might be going through. And if we had simply asked for help, we could have been at a better place. So when you pull on these strings and these core issues, you find that no matter the diversity of the audience, it's still hitting the same emotional chord because we're all going through that together.
Are there any specific strategies or techniques you employ to ensure your message resonates with your listeners?
Yeah, I mean, depending on the topic that I'm asked to speak about, I think I usually would just draw on my own personal experiences, usually stories that are true and impactful, just to start, because of course you want to start with something that really pulls them in, and then getting into the main points that really help bridge the gap between where they are, where they can be. I try to keep it as real as I can. I don't try to, overplay who I am, what I've done, or the impact of what I'm saying. I keep it very real and let them know this is where it's at. You can either be there with it or you can just stay where you're at. Because sometimes I think people need to hear the hard truth for it to really sink in that, sometimes, well, not sometimes, you basically are the one controlling your life to an extent. So if you don't start changing the direction of your life, nothing will change. So that's what I really try to do with my speeches.
Well, I want you to know before I ask you this next question is, that adds value and the purpose of what this show stands for because being titled America in Black and White is all about the truth And sometimes the hard truth, as you say, are some of the things that a lot of people really have a problem accepting.
Mhm.
But I think having the truth, especially a hard truth, is one that gives you the experience and gives you the opportunity to both grow and to build who you are
Mhm.
inside as your self-esteem and who you are personally. And so I just really like that statement when you said that. So I appreciate that.
Nice.
As an author and speaker, what impact do you hope to have on your readers and audience?
I just want persons to be in a better position after they've interacted with me, whether it's through my words that I speak or through the words that I've written. Um, you'll find out with my books that the main focus is always first inspirational. I want them to feel inspired, but especially practicality. I want that they have access or an avenue to be better if they really want to put the work in. So like my books will typically end with exercises at each chapter so that they can put some work in to actually change. Not just because one of the main things I didn't like about some of these self-help books I read, or even some of these speeches, is that you're very empowered in the moment, very motivated, very excited, but then it just wanes over time. I felt like I wanted to impact in a different way. I want them to be inspired, but I also want them to have practical steps on what they can do next to now keep the momentum going, to keep getting better, as opposed to just being inspired in that moment. So those are, you know, major facets when it comes to writing and even doing speeches for me. Um, Inspirational, but also practical.
What advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs who are looking to make a difference in their field while addressing societal issues?
I would say get as much knowledge as you can. I think knowledge really helps you to be more informed. It opens more doors. It gives you more opportunities. And then form a team around yourself. What did it say? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I really believe in that. Building a team around yourself, sharing the workload, sharing the profits, sharing all of that. It really allows you to reach a lot further and have access to more. And try to, this whole idea, I see people are trying to do everything alone. It just burns them out. They don't reach as far, and then it's like they are just spinning top in mud, doing a lot but not really moving in any particular direction. So I would say for those, educate yourself, read the books, do the courses, find a mentor. Anything you can do, just be voracious with your want of knowledge, and build a solid, trustworthy, efficient team around yourself so that you can make something amazing.
Tell us this. How do you define success?
So for me, success is really built around the results of your goals. Um, so whether it's in your personal life, your business life, your mental life, whatever aspect, the success is really built on when you set that goal. Did you achieve that goal, and did you achieve your goal with good results? I can sit down and say, yeah, my goal is to sell 100 books, but then I sold 20 books. That was not a good result. So my level of success can be quantified there. And when you use that as a measure for all the different goals, it forces you to now have very specific goals with specific targets and timelines. So then you can then say, yes, I had a good result. No, I didn't have a good result. So success is really about being goal-directed action.
How has entrepreneurship allowed you to create opportunities for underrepresented individuals within your industry?
Sorry, I couldn't. Could you say the question again?
How has entrepreneurship allowed you to create opportunities for underrepresented individuals within your industry?
Right. So, I mean, because of the work we were doing, one of the major facets of whatever business I do is that I am very adamant about putting out information. So, for example, when you go on my publishing page One Momentum Publishing, whether on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, you will find that the 80% of the content is teaching you how to do the same thing that I do as a service. I want people to have access to the information. I want them to know the process. I want them to be well informed so that they can make proper decisions. So now, if you are, looking to bet yourself and you're going to these pages, you're seeing all this information, it's now giving you avenue to, oh, okay, so I can do it myself, or I can take this model and use it as well, or I don't have to look everywhere to get all this information, because we are in a space now right now where information is everywhere. It's free, it's accessible. So trying to hoard it in a particular way is just not going to work anymore. You really have to be that individual who's putting it out there, adding value to person's lives through that education, through that mentorship, through that content, and then you'll attract the success that you want.
Can you share any success stories or highlights from your entrepreneurial journey that have been particularly rewarding?
Particularly rewarding. I mean, the fact that I was able to sell 2,500 copies of my books together, I think that's one of the biggest accomplishments, especially since the first book would have launched when COVID arrived here. So this is a period where there were no bookstores, had limited access to roads. You couldn't have more than 5 people in one room at a point in time. And, we were pumping out 200 books a month, to the point of doing deliveries ourselves because we weren't really sure about the accessibility and all that. And I think it really showed me that when you really push yourself, you can really achieve anything. And it really showed me the sky's the limit. And kind of gave me like a guide on, okay, the only limiting factor is really what I imagine as my overall goal or target. That's the only thing that's going to hold me back. So in order for me to do well, I just need to keep aiming big.
What role does storytelling play in your writing and speaking engagements, and how does it contribute to promoting understanding and empathy?
Oh, a major role, because all of my speeches and even all the chapters of any book that you read for me, they all start with a story, every single one. And that's because I want to start off with something that's relatable, something that someone can say, I have experienced this, or some level of, oh, I feel like he's attacking me, because it's the best way to kind of shock persons into realizing that same problem I spoke about, where you may be suffering with something, but you don't think that anyone else is experiencing this. I really want to break that trend and show that, hey, we're all going through whatever we're going through. It really just starts by, putting it out there that, hey, I need help. Hey, I have an issue. So I make it a testament to start each chapter with that story. And even when I'm doing a speech, I start with my own anecdotes, because I want them to know that, hey, I'm a real person in front of you and I'm not perfect. And let me tell you this story where I probably messed up and how it's affected me, but why there's more and why there's better.
I want to ask you a philosophical question.
So,
Do you believe knowledge is innate or is learned?
I think it's learned. Like you have to keep adding value to yourself through knowledge. Of course, there are definitely talented people out there, but if you stop learning, you stop growing. And if you stop growing, you're basically going to be stuck up at a particular level forever. You might even go lower because you're not retaining the information. So it's definitely something that you have to continually keep doing. I always say that I strive to be a lifelong learner.
Okay. How do you balance the creative process of writing with the practical aspects of running a business and speaking engagements?
Time management and a bit of energy management as well. I understand that when I am my most creative is when I need to be doing creative things. For me, that's early in the morning when it's quiet, nobody's trying to reach me, I don't have to look at my phone, I don't have to reply to emails. So, it helps that I am an early bird, so I can say get up at 5 and do my creative thing from 5 to 7. So you'll find that most of my writing is done in the early mornings when it's quiet. And then, I really try to focus on my top priorities during the day, because my list tends to be endless. but I focus on what are the major things I need to get done today, and try to delegate everything else to my team. And that usually keeps me steady. So I'm very grateful that I would have started my career in leadership development, because then I can use those same things that I teach the individuals to help me to keep on track of my life.
Are there any specific challenges you face as an entrepreneur that have informed or influenced your writing and speaking?
Hmm. I'd say the biggest influence would definitely be like my family. Um, the experiences I've had with them have shown me who I am. It's really, I mean, your family tends to know you better than anyone else. So a lot of my breakthroughs would come from conversations with them, experiences with them, those aha moments, because again, they know who I am. They'll say it like it is, and it will really kind of open the door to me to, oh yeah, that is true. And that then helps me to kind of curate things in a particular way. Um, and because we're big on God and faith and these kind of things, I tend to revert to faith and I revert to God whenever I'm having specific problems. So that together just kind of makes it so that I am built in a particular way. So it kind of all comes together.
How do you stay motivated and inspired despite the inevitable setbacks that come with entrepreneurship, writing, and public speaking?
I mean, motivation me is really like my mission. Um, my mission. When I clearly define my mission in life, it really makes it easy to be motivated each day. You know, it was difficult for me to want to commit to be a doctor, and that was because back then I thought my mission in life was to help people. That's what I was saying. But what I hadn't clearly articulated was, how do I want to help people? It was only when I was able to articulate, hey, I want to help people by using the gifts that I have and the experiences that I have to help them become better in their lives. So then things like leadership development, writing books, self-publishing for persons, those are the ways that I can now help persons. So whenever I'm doing activities that are along those lines, I feel empowered. I feel excited. There's no moment where I just feel like, yeah, I could just do nothing. Once you are able to actively be working towards your mission every day, you find that motivation, it just comes.
Can you tell us about any upcoming projects, books, or speaking engagements you're currently working on or excited about? So
Well,
this is outside the conference and those party events and so forth, but your actual projects.
I mean that those are my main projects. I mean, you want me to talk about something outside of the biggest conference that I'm literally going to be throwing for my life so far? I don't think there's anything this year that's going to overshadow that. Sorry to say, if I'm being very, very honest. Yeah.
So that's your just your new project.
Yeah, that's the biggest project that's going to take up most of my time, and there will be a second one late in the year as well. So really and truly, this first one is kind of a trial to see what works, what doesn't work, what needs changes. When we do the next one in November, it'll be even better. But yeah, those are my main focuses right now.
Okay. What advice would you give to aspiring authors and speakers who are passionate about sharing their stories and making a difference?
I would say be brave. I know that giving speeches and especially writing can be a very vulnerable thing, because you're basically putting a piece of you out there, and that can be up for criticism and praise. And you find that most people are hesitant because they're doubting themselves, and then there's the fear of not being accepted or being criticized. But what I always say is that your unique voice, your unique fingerprint, you never know how that will impact someone. It could be your words, whether written or spoken, that could be the reason that somebody is motivated to do something great. That someone sparks creativity in them to do something great. And when you do not move forward with that, it's like you're depriving someone of their greatness because you are afraid to put yourself out there. So I've always encouraged authors or speakers, you never know what your voice, what your written word, you never know how it can impact someone.
So, have you thought anything about mentoring a lot of these up and coming authors, or just people out in the public in general?
Well, I mean, the access to mentorship would be through the Caribbean Author Village. That's why I created it, so that aspiring authors and authors can join that group, and they will have access to me there, but they will also have access to others who are just as knowledgeable, so that it's like a community building each other. I think that is the best way to go about it, so that I don't get burnt out, so that persons still get the help that they need. And I really want to try to create this model in other ways to help persons as well.
Okay. And have you thought about any collaborations with, let's say, any of the people that have been in the industry of being an author or entrepreneurship, as to getting together and combine and make a much larger project?
Yeah, it's definitely in my mind. The next step with the group, I've already had some conversations with some of the publishers in the group. Because again, when the goal is to really take this conference to other territories, and in order to do that, I will definitely need to partner with these individuals, because it's not something that I can do alone. I would definitely need the man on the ground there to help us make this thing great. Um, so I don't know what that will look like yet, but I know that it will happen. So it's really just to keep having conversations, open discussions about like how we can make this a reality. Because I think at the end of the day, it will be a win-win for everyone. A win-win for us as publishers, and for authors, and even aspiring authors to boot.
Okay. And one last question for you, sir. When it comes down to just the creative process in general, do you find that process to be one that's of easement, or is it just one of those things that is something that's in you that helps you to create and know that this is what you're gonna put out?
It's so interesting. I feel like when I start the process, I have a general skeleton, a general idea of what I want to write when it comes to books and even speeches. But I always find that when I get into the process of writing, it's like I am taken along for the journey, and the journey just goes wherever it needs to go. And it's always such an interesting experience for me. So, for example, this third book, I would have had a skeleton, but in the process of writing, it just took a life of its own, and I was basically just taken along for the ride, writing where needed to be writing, added where what needed to be added, and it's such a unique experience. I feel like authors that write books, they can kind of feel it as well. Um, it's just very, very interesting. It's fun, because then you never know what product you're gonna get at the end of the day, but you know that it will have you all over it.
So, do you have any closing remarks or statements you'd like to make to our audience, as well as tell them how they can be in contact with you and follow you and your work?
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I think that there's a book in everyone. It just takes a bit of confidence to put it out there. I think information helps. I think access helps. This is something that I'm trying to build. So even if you're not in the Caribbean, it can definitely help. If you would like to connect with us, you can look for us on all social media platforms: Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. We are One Momentum Publishing, or OM Publishing. You can also go to our website, which is ompublishing.org. So if you'd like to join our author community, if you'd like to get a virtual ticket to view the event, because we will be streaming it, as well as having it in person, um, there's different access points. We're very, very accessible when it comes to social media. You can just message us, we reply, or you can just go through the website for everything.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, here you go. You've got it from Mr. Daniel Francis. We've just learned a lot about entrepreneurship, being an author, and speaking. And this man has done a lot here in the community to where he's building a lot over in the Caribbean, which I think everybody should be looking and following and learning a lot of things as to how to build a team and a group. I want to thank you very much, Mr. Francis, for spending some time with us and
Yes,
letting us into the your world and what you're creating in the Caribbean, because I definitely think it's a wonderful thing.
thank you.
And hopefully we'll be able to have you back.
Yes, and thanks for having me on. It's been a great pleasure.
Yes, sir. Thank you all, and have a great evening.